Welcome to Carefree and Conscious, paranormal and profound authors with stunning true stories. If you like this type of content, be sure to subscribe. I'm your host, Susanne Wilson, the Carefree Medium and Intuition Educator. Today on Carefree and Conscious, From Corporate to Serving Spirit with Holly Dowling. Have you hesitated to speak about your intuitive gifts with others for fear that it might be detrimental to your career and your relationships? Have you had dark nights of the soul and sought the courage to move forward? Our guest, Holly Dowling, is here to shine a light on how you can take steps today that will transform fear and doubt into love and service to help change the world exactly where you are right now. As a child, Holly had a spirit guide friend, and as an adult, she graced the stage as a highly sought international inspirational speaker, one of the best known in the world for the C-suite leadership of companies such as Microsoft, Facebook, Google, Cisco, Deloitte, The Gap, Home Depot, Wells Fargo, and many, many more. Holly is the author of Unlock Your Authentic Leadership Within, Extraordinary You, and Divine Neuroacuity. And now, Carefree and Conscious, From Corporate to Serving Spirit with Holly Dowling. Holly Dowling, welcome to Carefree and Conscious.
I'm so excited, Suzanne. I've been waiting this, I think, my whole lifetime.
Well, and our listeners are going to find out what you mean exactly by that, because you were in a intuitive closet for a long time, and I can't wait to get into some of that. But they just heard me name dropping huge companies in the intro. I mean, you're one of the most accomplished international corporate speakers and coaches in the world. And we're going to be talking about how that interplays with the intuitive abilities you've had your whole life, some of the things you've learned along the way. And I think folks are going to get a lot out of it. I don't know exactly where to start because there's so much, but I think the best place is to talk about when you started getting insights about people as a child and you were sort of told, don't do that. Can we start there?
You can go wherever you want to go because I literally trust you like forever. So we can, I mean, and it's interesting because part of this journey that I've been very divinely guided for you to be the person I'm going to have this conversation with, which I want to make sure we talk about that because that's crazy about who you are in this world and how I was brought to you. I would, as a young girl, it's easy to look back on things and think, wow, it was always there, but I just took it for granted. And it was something that happened since I was a little girl. Like I was very much a loner, Suzanne. I was very much, and I used to think that meant I was an introvert. Well, no, there's a lot more to that, right? As a little girl, I'd spend so much time alone, but I was so happy. I was so happy because I always had little visitors. I had somebody that I've not told a human being except my husband that I found since I've been writing. He's been visiting me since I was around 6 years old, and his name's Abraham. And I still write about him, and I'm almost 60, and he's been there by my side through so much, but I never thought that that was unusual. I just thought that was normal. Go forward, there was opportunities and times in my life, Suzanne, that I always say with the best intentions, everybody did what they thought was right. But I came from a mother and father my mother was agnostic till she met my dad, and my dad was Muslim till he met my mom. Then they become Christians, and I'm raised very Protestant Christian. So I'm sure like many people and like yourself, right, being in that world and to their best, their best guidance that they thought they were doing the right thing, I was very closed down. It was like, how do you know these things? How did you know? And it's because pretty profound things have happened. And it was more like, that's not possible. How would you know this? And let's not talk about that. That may not be the most holy thing to talk about. So until my mother passed, I was really not a person that was embracing any of this. And we're talking 5 years ago, Suzanne.
Okay, so you mentioned Abraham, and this is the first time hearing about him too. Abraham, right? I have the name. Is this a guide? Did you know what this was? Is this an angel? Did your child's mind need to categorize him, or I mean, what's the deal?
That's a great question. I can tell you he's about 6.5 feet tall. He's always been on the left side of me and very comforting, very much a strong comfort, a calming presence. Long white hair, long white beard in a very like cream colored natural outfit with flip flops and a little tie. And I always thought, he's just my protector. He was like a guardian angel. Now I believe he's probably my master, like spirit guide. But I had to learn what all that I'm learning. I'm still in the learning. I didn't even know what the word medium was till 5 years ago.
Well, I'm hoping that he says hello to me during the course of our talk today. That would be kind of fun. But your parents it seems like they're trying to protect you and they're trying to do the right thing. But a lot of stuff was breaking through in your life and you were getting predictions and all kinds of things. Can you tell us a little bit?
I would love to. And the few things I feel very strongly that are coming to me very strong is as I was in college and I came back, I would come home to visit my younger brother because I basically was another parent and helped raise him. And he's very precious to me. And I would come home because he'd miss me. So I came home and my mom's very best friend, we were on the driveway where they're helping me unload my stuff. And all of a sudden it happened again. I got this strong, overwhelming sense. And it was a very sad sense. I don't get those very often. And I excused myself. I went inside to the house and I sat on the living room sofa and I started to cry because in that moment, my biggest thing was, oh my God, my mom's best friend, Susie, her husband's going to leave her and he's going to leave her for another woman. He's having an affair. And I was horrified that I knew that, right? And I'm getting goosies as I'm telling you this. My mom walks in and she said, what happened? Why are you in here? You didn't even say goodbye. And I said, she goes, what's wrong? And I'm just bawling. And she goes, what's wrong? And I said, I don't even want to tell you. And she said, you must tell me. I said, just let Susie go. Let her go and just tell her I love her. And I said goodbye. My mom did. She came back in and I said, Mom, I don't know how to explain this to you. And I don't, it's like everything, but her husband's going to leave her and it's going to be within the next probably couple months. And he's going to leave her for somebody with other children. And my mom looked horrified. My mom never looks
That.
horrified. She's a pretty beautiful, peaceful, angelic almost person. And it was almost aghast. And she said, how dare you say that? And I said, Mom, you know how I know things and I've never known how. And she goes, just pretend like it was almost like, don't go there. Okay. Now, 2 months later, I'm back at college and the phone rings. And she said, are you sitting down, my darling? And I said, yes. And she said, I just got off the phone with Susie. She's in tears. Her husband left her for another woman who's younger with 5 children.
Oh, so mom's like, first, she doesn't want to hear it, and this shouldn't be something you should have access to. And now you're vindicated. She must have really gone through a lot of emotions with that.
Yes, I'm sure she did because remembering she was doing everything she knew to raise us, very biblical, which I love and I adore that, right? But I never was able to put this piece of me. It's why I questioned things my whole life and I had nobody to ask. I'm like, so if we're talking about a God that is so gracious and good, then why are so many people feeling shame and guilt? And why would you tell me that only these few people are going to go to a place called heaven? It never registered, Susanne. Like, I'm like, then where's the God that's all loving, right? Like, everybody should be loved. Like, I spent my life struggling with this stuff.
And
Yeah.
what did your dad think about your picking up on things like that?
I think my dad always adored it. My dad honored it because I believe, and now later in life, and I'd love your thoughts around this, I believe it's coming from the past of my Persian side. I think it's very much a gift that's been generational.
Yeah, I get thumbs up, green light, and the happy ding, ding, ding of a bell when you say my Persian side. Oh, and
Mhm.
fireworks. Sorry, there's a sparkler I have to mention, or I'd be remiss.
Oh, I love that. I love sparklers. Yes. Uh-huh. Because he was the one that as soon as he passed, I mean, there's stories, he still's with me all the time. The stories would make you laugh. People would cry and laugh. but I was the person at his funeral helping get the whole celebration done. And I laugh and go, of course, my dad had it all planned. We did a red carpet visitation so people could see him, but then we were going to go do the cremation. But the funeral director, I pulled him aside. I'm like, John, you've been lovely. He goes, I've never seen a daughter that has so much peace. And how are you able to have so much joy? And I said, he goes, I've been in this business 32 years and I've never seen anybody like this. And this was just 4 years ago. And Susanne, it was hilarious. I looked at him, I said, John, because I know where my dad is and he's still with us. He's actually going to be in the room with us. And I said, he's right there. And he looked at me and he said, how do you know that? And I said, well, you're in the funeral business. And I was shocked. I said, haven't you seen a lot of people come and visit, especially in this place? And he goes, not in 32 years. And I said, I looked at him and I literally can tell you, I can tell you what I was wearing, what he was wearing. I laughed and I said, John, trust me. I said, something crazy is going to happen. And I can't wait to find out what it is. And guess what?
Oh boy.
Uh-huh. After this wonderful service, and you have to know, my father was your hardcore Persian. Yes, he had a temper. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in our dysfunctional dynamic families. And, my parents were divorced a long time, but there was some forgiveness that was done during this celebration and all of that. And right after, did you know that I never knew this, that the room that we're doing the service in, you have 5 minutes to go back out by the fountain, and then they redo the whole room, and that's where we go have appetizers and cake.
That's a fast turnaround.
It is. But he grabs me and he says, Holly, can I speak to you out in private? I go, sure, John, is everything okay? And he goes, the people upstairs want to meet you. He goes, they've never seen this happen in our music room. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, you created the playlist with your dad's wife, Pam. And I go, yeah, the things we thought he'd love. He goes, we're up there in the booth going, there's songs being played right now that weren't on the playlist, and we don't know how this is happening.
Oh, yeah.
And it was I'm getting goosies because I started to laugh and he's just like dumbfounded. And I go, of course there were. I told you something was going to happen. I go, can you write down the names of the songs? Because it's probably songs that have to do with angels and probably something we missed that we forgot he loved.
Gosh. And were the songs, were they random or did they have a meaning?
One was completely random, but Pammy was like, oh my God, that's one of his old favorite songs that we forgot about. Two had to do with angels, and I don't even remember the names of the songs, but it's just, and then ever since there's so many great stories, and Susanne,
Yeah.
I know you get this, but it's like, I cannot I'm not wasting another moment on this physical side of this planet and in this body right now. It's a disservice to the world to not help people understand that they're there and they miss us more than we miss them sometimes. And it's endless. We just have to be open and ask. I mean, I'm talking to you, the guru, telling you something that you know so well, but that's why I'm choosing to make some big decisions right now.
Well, I appreciate that compliment. I think we're all gurus in some way, but I have to ask you, if you were booked tomorrow afternoon to go out in front of 3,000 people at, let's say, Microsoft corporate, because I know that's been one of your clients, would you bring up the woo?
Hell yes.
Yay! And you would be accepted. I think you would be accepted because you're you. You have an impact on people. It's more than charisma. There's a light. And some of us don't know what it is. There's something about you, we just like you. But some of us see a light that sort of shines through the eyes of people who have embraced the fact that there's a unity consciousness. They've gone through some stuff and come out the other side. They have all this compassion, but they're always drawn to the light no matter what's going on. And it just comes through. And I don't know if you've had this experience, but I've had friends in their 70s, 80s, and like late 80s, early 90s that have that light and they look younger.
I believe that. I've seen that. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, so there's good motivation to embrace the light and bring it into your life, but you didn't talk about this kind of thing. You empowered people. So you're working, I guess, with high performance type of folks. So what drew you into the corporate consulting and these huge venues where multiple big name speakers are going up, and you have best-selling books that I've showed in the intro. I mean, how does the little psychic girl decide this is where I'm going? And I did this too. I did the corporate world too, and you know about that. But what where I'm missing something.
Okay, so was I. I mean, honestly, but right? We can look back, but are we missing something? Because, and this is something else that I want the world to know, and some of my horrific stories in past too, a little bit, just if you've read anything, and people say, how can you have so much forgiveness? Because some days I'm just like, but how do you not? Right? Because I can look back, and I'm not telling you that during some of those horrific times in my life, I wasn't wondering where the heck is a God if there's a God, right? But I can also tell you, I know I was supposed to go through all that because it made me rich in spirit and rich in character. And I don't know, I just feel like who wants to talk to somebody that hasn't, or heard from anybody speak that hasn't walked in their shoes? I mean,
Right.
honestly,
Right.
right? Like,
That
I'm
makes
just a big believer in that. And I love that you just asked me something, because now this is crazy. But again, if everybody listening could look back on their life and go, instead of having regret and anger towards situations, look at it as the most beautiful life lessons. Like, it's like, do you get, when faced with adversity, do you get bitter or better? And I used to say, well, do you let the adversity define you or refine you? And I believe it refines us. And I mean, way back long ago. Okay, so now we're going back to like mid 90s. Okay. I never set out to do this, Susanne. I never set out to be an inspirational global speaker. I never knew that was in my next future. But I was going to a church at the time that a women in this one group that I was joining, and I had just moved to Denver and I was looking for friends. And we're sitting in this little like group study, and we start sharing our stories. So I started to share a story of my past. And this woman approached me afterwards. Her name was Peggy. I'll still never forget it. And she said, I know this might sound crazy, but I have to ask you, would you be willing to share your story? I'm a high school teacher, and I work in the public school district of Denver, and not in one of the best high schools, but I think my kids need to hear your story. And I looked at her, Susanne, and I said, you really want me to tell you what I just shared with you, and to be that, vulgar and tell you what really happened? She said, I want you to tell it just like you did. And she goes, they need to hear this. So I was like, I always say, if a door opens and you're supposed to say yes, don't bow away from it. And I was scared to death. Like, I wasn't public about any of that. So I said yes, and I had to go buy myself a suit at Casual Corner. Do you remember Casual
Oh
Corner?
gosh, yes, I shop there too.
Well, because I didn't even own anything like that. And I was like, all right, I can go do this. This changed my life. I literally walked into that high school. She had asked a couple of the teachers, told them I was coming, and they didn't know me from Adam. I spoke to this group of high school students that they combined in a classroom. That day was life altering because I was scared, and I was like, gonna tell them the really brutal stuff that I'd been through, but also the good stuff about having goals and dreams. And I call them butterflies, and that the world and sometimes people unintentionally can crush that. And then where I went from that, there was a line of high school kids, starting with boys, waiting to talk to me, boys crying, 16, 17-year-olds saying to me, I can't thank you enough. And in tears saying, I never want to do what I'm seeing done to my mother.
And we're talking about DV, domestic violence.
We are. We are. And the moment, and it really, I mean, I just thinking about it brings it back. And women, and this was a rough area. So that in itself, but 2 days later, Peggy called me and she said, you aren't going to believe this. I have a 3-page handwritten note. And actually, I think it's sitting in my desk next to me. I keep it in a Ziploc baggie to this day. It traveled with me all over the world. And she said, there's a young lady that was there that day that wrote a 3-page letter to you. And I had to show it to the principal. And we had to call social services. And she wanted to give it to you. And I said, no, I would give it to you on her behalf. But she said, Holly, you need to see this letter right away. You've saved somebody's life. And this young woman wrote that she had, excuse me if I get emotional, but this young woman had written that that day she never believed in God because she didn't know that there would be a God, because that day she had planned to take her life after school. And she said, I had it all planned. And she said, because of you, I believe that I am somebody and that there is a reason I'm here. And my father was selling me to my uncles and to friends for cocaine. So I was been having sex with other men since I was 3 years old.
Oh, that's so tragic.
It is. And I keep the letter. It's tethered and worn. But on that day, I thought to myself, I still have no idea why I was to share anything with these kids. The principal called me and said, would you speak at our high school auditorium when we have all the kids together and we're inviting the parents? Everyone needs to hear this. There's kids' lives who have been impacted. Okay, now I was like, really? You really want me to do this? And so I did it. And the reason I'm telling you this is there was a line of parents standing there to shake hands, thank me. And one gentleman handed me his card and he said, I work for IBM. And he said, I think that my managers need to hear you. You have a gift. And he said, have you ever spoken for leaders and or anything like that? I said, no, I just spoke at this high school for a woman that knows me from church. And he goes, I believe there's something in the making. Would you come speak with? And that was the beginning of the rest of the story, because I always say this business found me. I didn't go search it. But when we are really ready to say, what's my soul's calling and the highest calling, we will be given opportunities. And I know that's exactly what's happening now and why I'm talking to you, because it's a scary place that I've been living the last couple years.
Well, what did it take for you to change your life and to get away from your abuser?
I think that there was obviously another angel that was protecting me, because I spent 488 days exact. And I don't know if you want to bleep this out, so I'll just leave it. But I was told for 488 days that I was a stupid effing bee. So I don't want to say those words, but we all know what that means. And with that said, I was 6'5" with boots on. I was hit, kicked, you name it. And when I finally realized I couldn't do this anymore, I tried to leave. And I had my car packed and I was at the service station and trying to sneak out. And I had a pretty affluent position in the city we lived in. So I had to be ready I used to go stay in hotels in another city so that I could not have to be scared of going to my job. And to have this position at a young age was a pretty big deal. And so he caught me trying to leave. And he followed me back to the house. And basically, that was the night that I ended up in a tree. He screamed at me, kicked me, had a knife in his hand, and said, you try to leave me again and I will kill you. And you know what? I don't know. Something better and greater than me and my guardian angels and Abraham, everyone that's been around me, and I know Jesus has been there, protected me, because I said something I'd never said to him. And he started to chase me. And I ran in circles and I ran out the front door. I'll never forget this. There is snow on the ground. And he didn't know where I went. And I had gone out the front door and I was in the snow and I crawled up a tree and I watched him running through the house screaming to find me. I'm going to effing kill you. And he couldn't find me, went looking everywhere. And I waited to see him pull out in his pickup. And that's when I ran into the house, grabbed my purse, my keys, And as soon as I knew he was down the street and gone, I got in my car and I never looked back. But before I did that, I looked in the mirror and I didn't recognize my face. And this is an important part because I thought I just wanted to die. I was like, there's just nothing. There's no reason. I knew he was going to find me and probably kill me. And all I heard looking in that mirror was something, a voice so loud. And you know, when you hear the voices, and I get voices, and it said, there's something bigger for you. You need to stay alive. Now leave. And I literally got in my car and I just started driving. And I drove and drove, and I never went back to that city. I went to a hotel. I called the police. The sheriffs hid me for a few days, and then they got me to my parents' home. So, by the grace of God, I'm great and I'm alive, and I can help other women survive, or other people, humans that are in that position. So,
Well, tell us about your wonderful family situation now, your husband, kids, the grands. What's that like?
well, this is why I'm so blessed. Now I have an amazing husband. I have 3 gorgeous boys. I had 2 of my own. And that's another whole story of having one be diagnosed with cancer and another one born, and then losing my house all the same week. You see, the stuff just keeps coming, but it's how do we see the miracles and the treasures in the process? I'm completely convinced there's miracles. And I have almost 6 grandbabies. I have 5 and almost a 6, and I go by Go-Go, and it's the highlight of my life. And it's been an amazing couple years of rekindling and getting back to saying, I'm ready to just spend the next however many years I have here doing what I've been put here to do. And I'm not worrying about the money, and I'm not worrying about doing what the world's known me to do. I'm kind of throwing the high heels back in the closet, and I'm giving all the suits away.
Amazing. We have a lot of people that listen to this that are going through changes in their life, or reinventions, or planning, like what's that next phase going to be? Why am I here? What am I here to do? How hard was it for you to walk away from all these big speaking contracts? And do you think you'll go back?
Nobody's asked me that question. So how hard was it? It was hard, but I also know that I was brought to my knees because I was having a lot of health issues. And I'm 100% convinced, and anybody listening, trust me when I say this, you can work your life off and your ass off to get it all. I know what it's like to have a lot. I know what it's like to lose everything, literally have a sheriff take it all away. And I say to you, I was losing my health. I was losing my voice, Susanne, and I was being paid a lot of money to be on a stage and being on doing virtuals. And I'm like, I'm also losing my thought patterns. I couldn't get the words to connect. So when this is how you make your living, and I've always felt very blessed to get to do what I did and do, but I was like, I have to take a break. And I was very honored and blessed to get into the Mayo Clinic. Spent over a year going through many, many tests, lots of tests, lots of possible diagnoses, about a year and a half. And I said, I'm done being a rat experiment. I love my doctors at the Mayo, but I kept saying, I want to do the natural path. I had an acupuncturist. I wanted to do things that were holistically healing, because in the process of all this, I was doing some serious trauma healing. So it's almost like that the spiritual, physical, emotional, and mental needed to be healed in Holly. And I was scared to death that I was going to lose Holly in this process. And instead, you know what I've done? I've stopped blowing out my hair and straightening it, and I'm curly now, and I'm letting it go. And I'm pulling back all the layers, and I'm saying I'm free to be me. And I don't give 2 hoots what anybody thinks, because I feel better than I've ever felt. And I'm never going back to the rat race of exhausting myself, pleasing the world. And
Yeah,
I've never gotten to say that till I get to say it to you.
I was just going to say, does that feel good?
Oh my God, if I could right now, I'd hug you and I'd jump through the phone and say, I feel better than I've ever felt. Now, do I have any idea how I'm going to make money tomorrow? No. And am I not worrying about it? No, because everything's being provided. And I know it's about serving the world, and it will all come. And I get to visit with my parents all the time on the other side. And now it's strangers and friends and people all over like, we're at dinner the other night, and well, I don't even want to go there because I could tell you so many cool stories that happened.
I'd like a cool story.
But thank you, because you just gave me the biggest gift of being able to say to the world, I'll pick and choose who I want to speak for, and
Yeah.
I'm never going to compromise any aspect of myself. I got to fall back in love with my husband because I was so busy on the road. We're having time to be married, and it's really fun, you know? But speaking of, we were literally at dinner the other night, a couple weeks ago, and we're sitting, we're bar people. We like to sit at the bar and eat. We don't need to go sit at a fancy table and, we just eat, get our food. And there's like 5 seats between us, and it's a small bar. I like dark, cozy places, not busy, not I don't like a lot of noise. And there's like all these seats and then like 2 other people. And I have my purse on the chair. And this woman walks in and she says, "Oh, is anybody sitting here?" And I said, "Oh, no, of course not. Just my purse. It's just adopting it." I took it off, right? This is when you never know who's going to sit next to you. And she's doing her thing. We're talking. Well, fast forward, something comes up. We start talking. And next thing you know, she's sharing with me about her and her sister. And they're very close, but going through a tough thing. Their mother just passed in the last, I think it was 6 to 8 months. And she goes, "I don't even know why I'm telling you this." And I just looked at her, Susanne, and I said, "I do." And she said, "Why?" And I go, "Did your mom like to make apple pies? Was that like her favorite thing?" And she just goes, "Oh my God." She just got shocked. She was like, "Yes, how do you know that?" And I go, "And oh, by the way, she knows that you have her plaid blanket and you keep it on your bed." And she just looked at me and she started to cry. She goes, "How on earth do you know this?" "Yes, yes, she does." And she goes, "She loved apple pies." And I go, and she's smiling, and she's got the most beautiful smile and glasses, and she loved hearts. And she goes, "Oh my God." She goes, "Can I show you what that was recorded at her?" Like, before you know it, she goes, "Can I call my sister right now and tell her everything you said?" I go, "You can, but why don't you wait till we're done?" And I said, she goes, "Can I hug you?" And I go, "Of course you can hug me." And she goes, "Oh my God, are you a medium?" And I started to laugh. I go, "Well, I never knew what the word was. And now I have a dear friend who I'm going to learn from, and her name's Susanne." And I said, "I'm going to start learning." I go, "I think it's called being a spiritual messenger." But so
Yeah.
those are the fun stories. They're endless, right? Of just these things when we are willing to serve the world.
You have this attitude of no matter what happens, you're blessed. And that I think it's in it, you either have it in your DNA or you gain it through having the experiences, synthesizing those experiences, healing them, and converting that into a wisdom. I think you're a mix of both. Like you're kind of born this way, but you decided to take all of the dark nights of the soul and light them up, light them up for everybody. So I only just met you this year. How did you end up in my beginner's intuitive mediumship course?
Oh, I can't wait. I got to tell you, because you don't even know this story. You might know a tiny bit of it, but oh, this is why. Okay, look, I'm getting goosies. They're happening. Get ready. I literally, that's the first course I've ever taken on anything like this, intuition or anything. That's why it's stepping forward, right? Everything. About 5 years ago, I was getting a massage, and from a gal that I had never been to before. And since then, only person I'll go to. And I'm getting a massage. And this is okay. Can I just back up and tell you really quickly? This is important because this guides me to how I got to you. Is that when my mother passed, it was 5 years ago, July 6th,
Yeah.
and during COVID. And when she passed, the next day, a dragonfly flew in to my office, to our house, came into the house and was flying all around my office, and then hung on right above my office, my light. Yeah. And I'm like, I used to think she'd be a butterfly, but it was a dragonfly. And I'm like, well, Nanny's with us. Nanny's here. 3 weeks later, my husband took me to Sedona so we could just get away. And, in COVID, that was about all you could do. And we're sitting out back and we're having a glass of wine, and it's magical and mystical there. And I love it. And all of a sudden, this butterfly just starts swirling around my head. And he's like, "Oh, look at that." And I said, "Mom, you're here, aren't you?" She swirls around, she lands on my hand, and then she lands on the lip of my glass of wine. And she's just sitting there. And I'm like, I love you, and I know you're here. And then she goes over and lands on Steve's nose. And we're like, but the point to this is the butterfly flew around. There was all this peace. Right as the butterfly flew off, all I heard, so loud and clear, was you're free from the bondage and shackles. It's time to let your spirit soar. That moment was life altering. The goosies were all over me. It was like the Holy Spirit, the angels. It's like she freed me from this bondage.
Do you mind saying that again? What you heard, just say it again.
You are free from the bondage and shackles. It is time to let your spirit soar.
Okay.
So clear as can be. And that is when I knew it was like permission that it's time to start acknowledging and embracing these gifts. I'm getting a massage and I'm laying on the massage table. And all of a sudden, I'm trying to focus on this beautiful massage I'm getting. And I'm like, this man is visiting us and he's standing on my left side. Men always come to my left. Women are typically on my right. He's standing on my left and he's smiling and he's in like a blue suit, almost like a military suit. And I kind of am learning. I'm like, okay, when I find that they really nudge me and are very persistent, then I know I have to say something. But I've been scared to death. I don't approach people in public, Susanne. I don't just tell somebody that, so I'm having to like get the courage. He won't leave me alone. And he's like, please tell her I'm here. Please tell her it's Tom. Please tell her it's Tom. And then tell her I know about the teddy bear with the red sweater. This leads to you. So we get up from the massage. She's getting ready. She's getting ready to walk out the room. And I said, no, can you please stay for a minute? She's like, yeah, is everything okay? I go, yes. And I'm not really sure how to say this, but I'm going to just say it. I go, are you spiritual? And she goes, yes. And she's beautiful, angelic face. She goes, I'm spiritual. She goes, I'm not really religious, but I'm very spiritual. And I go, oh, good. Same with me. I said, would you be okay if I told you we had a visitor in the room? She goes, there wasn't anybody here. I go, no, there was somebody with us. And he wants you to know he loves you. And she just looked at me and her eyes were like this. And she goes, who is it? And I go, I don't know anything. All I know is his name is Tom. He was wearing like a blue suit and he wants you to know he loves you so much. She started to cry and she hugged me and she said, it's my Uncle Tom. He was my best friend and he just passed last Thanksgiving. And I said, well, he was with us. She goes, oh my God, it's so exciting. And then I said, and he wants you to know that you have the teddy bear with the red sweater. I have no idea what that means. Well, she dropped into my arms and sobbed, almost fell to the floor. So I'm holding her and she's very tiny and I kind of hold her and I said, when you're ready, we'll go back out. And she said, you need to know something. He gave my parents that teddy bear with the red sweater when my parents were leaving a visit with him and they were killed in a car accident. And she said, I just got this teddy bear not that long ago. And I said, he knows you have it. She just looked at me and was like, are you a medium? And I go, I don't know what that word means. She goes, she goes, you are one. You are one. I go, well, I just wanted you to know this is happening. And she goes, there's somebody you need to meet. And I go, who's that? And she goes, have you ever heard of Susanne Wilson? This is like 5 years ago. She goes, Susanne Wilson, the Carefree Medium. And I go, no, I've never even known what mediums are. And she goes, Holly, you were supposed to meet this woman. She goes, my boyfriend, it's now her husband. She goes, it's the person that impacted his life. He used to go to her. His name's Michael. She goes, I don't think he does one-on-ones anymore, readings. Maybe she does, but she goes, Holly, he loved her. And all I'm telling you is I'm just feeling this. You need to go meet this woman. Can you at least look her up? I'll send you her link.
5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Where have you been?
Well, I know, because I started to look you up. And then I just kind of was like, well, I've been buying, that old saying, look at your bookshelves and you'll know a lot about what somebody's passions are. Mm-hmm. I've been buying books and reading books left and right about intuition and spiritual gifts. And heaven and back and all this stuff and mediums. And I started reading about you and looking you up. And then one day, you don't even know this either, about a year and a half ago, I was having this conundrum. I'm like, all right, it's really time for me to step forward. Or maybe it was like a year ago. I'm going to study with somebody. I'm going to figure out who I can study by. And there's 3 different books and people I was being drawn to, you being one of them, and 2 others, just because of what I loved is your story that you were in the corporate world. So I could relate. You weren't this woo-woo, you know what I mean? Like you were just this stunning, smart, savvy person. And I was like, and she came out of the closet with her gifts. Like, and I'm like, well, I haven't had a near-death experience. Probably could have been dead, but I got out in time. And I'm thinking, okay, Susanne, you're going to get goosies. So it was down to 2 people. I prayed. I asked the divine every morning is my quiet time. It's a ritual I've had my whole life. I pray, I meditate, I read, I write. I wrote about it before I went for my walk. And I said, it's between Susanne and this other person. Give me a sign that who I know who I'm supposed to work with, because I wanted to sign up for something. I'm out taking my normal walk. We live in a beautiful little area. There's never a soul out when I'm out there. Get ready. I'm walking around this cul-de-sac up across the way, and I pass this woman who's blonde and has a little ball cap on, and she's got a little dog with her, and she's walking too. Never seen her before. I just pass her, and I'm next walk around. I do my certain laps. We pass each other. I see her again, and I'm like, oh, and it's sunrise. Right? I'm like, oh, hi. I go, and we were smiling at each other, and I go, do you live here? I've never seen you before. And she goes, oh, no, I live in the White Mountains. I just rented a house for like a month to be down here. And I go, well, nice to meet you. Your dog's beautiful, this tiny little fluffy white dog. And I said, well, I'm Holly. And she goes, hi, I'm Susanne.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
that's
it.
fine.
I said, I need billboards, not Post-it notes for signs. And I'm like, and I started to laugh. She goes, why are you laughing? Because I said, I asked Spirit for a sign today. And I go, you gave it to me. You even look like this woman. And so she came from the mountains. I met her, and that was it, Susanne. And I said, all right, I started exploring and looking for a class. And that was your intuitive class you were doing.
It's so funny too. There was something I said. It's Intuitive Mediumship 1, and it's like total beginners. And I make it fun and light, and don't worry about being wrong, and get some fundamentals in there along the way. And for whatever reason, something came up about a television show. And that's how we started to actually talk. And the show was, do you remember? Of course.
Well, you know what? I remember exactly what happened, because you're the guru hosting this, right? And you come on and you're always just it's what I love about you. You're like, let's just chat, right? And this one person, you said, has anybody got questions? And somebody asked you about AI and the connection to spirituality.
Yeah.
And then you proceeded to say, oh yeah, you had a whole cool thing. And you go, has anybody been watching Murderbot? And my face, every time we were on a class, something would happen that was mind-boggling with you. Like I was getting, no, not another nudge. And you're like, you use that as an example, right? Murderbot. You go, I love this show because it's showing a robot that it's becoming human. And you kind of gave this beautiful scenario. I can't, recite what you said, because I was still in shock. Because I'm like, why did she say Murderbot? Of all the shows, right? And so I pinged you and Diane, and I said, you aren't going to believe this, but if you watch Murderbot, then you know who my brother is. He's an actor, and he's the other lead in Murderbot. And that's how you're like, what? I love that show. And my brother's been the number one person. My brother and sister support me, my sibs, with my gifts. And he's like, when are you coming out with this stuff? So
David Dasmalchian.
Yep.
Man, he's an amazing, amazing actor, and he really got to show off a lot in that show. I hope that they get a second season, and then Dexter, and I mean, gosh, if I can think of 12, 15 things I've loved him in, but for Murderbot to come up, and I saw all these other squares with faces like Murderbot, that sounds odd. And I saw a couple of faces in our group light up and go, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, okay, it's not just me. But it's just, then we started to chat a little bit, but I still didn't know a whole lot about you. We went to a float meditation. I'm like, somebody suggested going to one of these meditations where you float in a pool and they have the crystal bowls and a Native American flute player, and your face popped up. I'm like, why am I inviting a student to go and meet me and do this? And I'm like, I don't know, but it's Holly's face. I didn't even know your last name. And I'm like, Holly's face from my class. She needs to go to this. And we met up at that. Didn't really get to talk a lot because it's an activity. And I think there was a reason why I wasn't supposed to know much about you, because I ended up giving you messages on August 23rd at an event in Carefree. And I almost fell down when I just am going to give a random message towards the end of the program. The program was actually about interdimensionality and raising your frequency. And I'm like, of course, I'm the Carefree Medium. I'm going to give some medium messages in the last 15 minutes or whatever. And you claimed the message and you stood there and said, I've never had a reading before. And I'm like, wait, this is wild. And so, do you want to talk about what happened then?
I'm still in shock, right? I couldn't wait. And by the way, just so you know, my brother's in Australia right now filming. I know, oh, people out there are going to love this. Do you remember the video game? Oh gosh, I'm horrible at this. You'd think I'd be a better sister. I wasn't into the old games. They're making a movie. He's in Australia. I sent him the recording. I've sent it to some family. He called me. He was flipping out. So basically, what I loved about your workshop is, yeah, this wasn't a workshop on mediumship. It was what you just said. And it was so fun, and, doing hands-on things with another partner in the room.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then,
you did good. Everybody was having really good experiences in a psychometry exercise. So listeners, if you've never done that before, you've got to try out psychometry.
it was really cool. That's what I love about you. And you're constantly researching and things. I'm like, and you were actually sharing a lot of science, which I'm fascinated with neuroscience. And so it was just cool. I had no idea that at the end that there would be a reading. But Susanne, what you don't know is when you started that, all of a sudden, for everybody out there, this was unbelievable. She's like, okay, well, before you all run out of here, I do have somebody that's been bopping around, and well, it's over on this side of the room, and that's where I'm sitting, with half the ballroom. And you started saying, does anybody know a Pris? And I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, I do, but this can't be for me. I'm thinking, I've never had a reading before. I'm just thinking it's got to be somebody else in here. And then you kept going. You go, her name's Pris, but she did not like to be called Prissy. And then you said something about COVID. She was holding, you were, and I was just dumbfounded. And you were kind of like, it was almost like you were looking at us like, come on, whoever it is, speak up. And I went, I put my hand up, and you were like, Holly? And I'm like, yes. And you were like, could you get up? And I'm like, I'm not sure. Hold on. I was in such shock. And I popped up, and I'm like, my mom's Priscilla. She hated it when people called her Miss Prissy. And then everybody died. You were laughing. We were all dying. Then you went on. She got a cough on Tuesday. She passed on Sunday. The doctor said she did not die of COVID, but the hospital still got their money. That you're the one that said it was something else on top, and she wanted you to know. And it was just endless. I mean, Susanne.
Wow, I'm just now hearing that validation. I did not know what that meant. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got chills again. I feel like she's here right now. She's like loving being talked about and being the center of attention.
She did. She did. But you know what's funny? It's my dad that's, their personality is just the same on the other side that it is here. And he was such a strong personality that everybody laughed and goes, he's going to be just the way. And I go, oh, he is. He's coming all the time. He helps me flush my toilets because I blame it on him. And I'm like, Dad, we have GI issues because of you. And I'll walk away. I'll try to flush it like 3 times. I'm serious. I want everybody to know this. We have to have fun with spirit, right, Susanne? That's what you teach us.
Yeah.
And it's like, I walked away one day halfway down the hallway. bing, it flushes. And that's just one of many things. But my mom, she didn't have as many visits because I think she's kind of in a different realm. I don't know. I'll learn all this when I take my course from you, but I'm
Well,
still learning.
there was something super cute when I said, I don't know, this is just seems random, but they love your turkey. And and you said that that's the only thing I can make.
Thing I cook, and the family loves my turkey, but Steve does all the cooking. Now, I know I'm gonna cry from laughter because it was like you just can't make this stuff up. I mean, you were just like,
Oh, I
and it was
know.
awesome. And
I think
I mean,
this Steve, I mean, it sounds like you got a gem. You really did. You got a gem. You went through something else before him, and it really helps you appreciate what you have now. And to everybody that thinks, why is everything so hard? I mean, you've had those moments. I've had those moments. I've talked about it before. Why is everything so hard? I've contemplated what would it be like to go to heavenly home early. I didn't actually formulate a plan to do it, but I mean, we've all had those moments. And the thing that really helps people, I think, stay focused here and see what else is here in our earth plane in 3D is knowing that these loved ones are watching. They're still participating in our lives. And I want to make mine proud of, my sense of humor, my generosity with other people, my kindness towards people that are ignored, my kindness towards animals. I want them to see me have fun. I want them to see me have adventures. And gosh darn it, when my day sucks, I want them to come in and comfort me in some way and give me a sign too. Mediumship, people think I can order up grandma and grandpa like a burger and fries. And as you're learning, it doesn't work that way. However, there's times when we think of our loved one and we might feel a tiny bit sad or a little bittersweet twinge. And we're like, why did I think of them just now? Because they're there. Because they're there. You're not sad, you're feeling their presence. And it just lends this whole new frame of reference of looking at life. I mean, you got to get this, the small blue dot type of thinking about where we are, how, small Earth is, and how big all these other dimensions are, and how much our beloved people and pets can travel through these dimensions. And yet they come to check on us. That's love.
it is, and that's the way you say it with the big capital L.
Love with
I
a
love
capital L. That's not like how I love pizza.
it. Stop.
That's big love. Big love
Well,
from
it
that.
is how I love pizza, but I
Yeah.
love that about you. And and it's fascinating when I hear you because I know that's why I've been drawn to you. And I think that everybody, if we listen to the divine nudges, right? We get the divine nudges. And what's crazy, Susanne, you just said something towards the beginning, which means so much to me because I do see, have I had horrific days? Heck yes. Have I thought there's no God when I thought I mean, it's just that we all go through our stuff. And yet you look back and you go, but all that had to happen for where I am now. So I can be the empathetic servant in the world and have compassion and no judgment, right? But it's like we all struggle. And yet you use the word blessed. I do choose
Yeah.
joy. I choose to be blessed. And about 7 years ago, I've always struggled with, I'm so caught up in what my biggest fear is what we're doing right now. Like I was caught up in it. I'm not anymore because I've had time to step away. I used to think, what would the world think if I started telling people, these are the gifts I have and I want to use them to bring more love to the world and give hope and healing. And I used to think nobody would want to buy me anymore. My corporate buyers wouldn't want me anymore, right? Well, that's a big thing we build up in our head. Because the minute I started honoring this, and I've allowed, my brother told me, follow the trailheads. I keep telling him, I'm on another trailhead. Here we are. And it's like, once you start following it, the spirits are there. They're guiding us. Like it's all right there. And that's why I'm here with you, right? It's like, it's crazy, the stories. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love your openness to, I don't know exactly what's next, but I'm paying attention and I'm going to study some stuff and I'm going to play. And you have the playful attitude as opposed to people who come to a course and think they have to master it and they want to compare themselves to others. The way that you've coached and shared and inspired, I don't know, maybe hundreds of thousands, a million, people on a stage, that's actually who you are. You're not putting on a persona to do a gig. That's who you are, and that's how mediums are. It's like we're making ourselves so vulnerable. It's all out there. That's my soul doing that work. And so, with your natural abilities, with your studying, with your dogged determination to be of service in this world and have fun and really live a good life along the way. I mean, you can go as far as you want in developing any abilities that you want. And the key here is because you allow it. That's the key. It's empowerment and it's your permission slip. And nobody can write that permission slip for you. I can't write the permission slip for you for going into my mentoring program like you are, like this is how it's going to turn out. It's up to you. And that's what you told all these corporate people. So I have one last question for you, and I really want to know, did these corporate folks get you? Did they have emotional responses to you? And what kinds of things happen? Because I've been away so long, I kind of think of them as suits. Sometimes even though I have CEOs and very responsible people that check in with me on their, business plans, capital improvement plans, their talent management and stuff, I still think of like, the corporate minions. You're not talking about the woo stuff for years and years and years. You're talking about empowerment and leadership. But did they get that from you? Did they get that essence of your soul from you? And how do you know?
I love that you just asked me that, because I used to sit there and go, I bet you're thinking that we're going to, whether it's a ballroom of 5,000 or I'm in a C-suite, boardroom, I always looked at everybody as human beings. And I said, you know, you've been through so many courses and you've heard everybody speak. And I've shared stages with a lot of big time people in the leadership space. But I said, today, I'm going to ask you to give yourself permission. And I did this every time, Susanne. I said, today, you're going to go from here to here, because what your people need from you is this. They need to know me, care about me, and for God's sakes, pay attention to me. And I have to say this because a lot of people come to me for coaching on wanting to become a speaker. And I still do a little bit of that on the side, but I'm very picky on who I pick and choose. I will not work with people that want to get on a stage for their ego. Absolutely. And I can sniff it out. I've always had that intuition gift, right? I can sniff it out. And so all of that said, a very big, everybody would know the name, probably one of the biggest multi-billion-dollar suit firms in the world, was probably a 15-year client of mine. And I love them. But go back to the very beginning when they were first referred to me. And I remember going to their headquarters and we met, and they had this big dream of what they wanted to do. And they were great at always focusing on the partners. We're always going to top on they're the money makers, and that's. So all I'm going to tell you is we sat there, we spent 2 days. They wanted to create something. I love to create. That's who I am. I love to create something that's not rinse and repeat, creating something that will fit what they're trying to accomplish. So we spent all this time, and we're going to do like 13 pilots with a bunch of handpicked leaders that they want to go to in all different cities around the world. That's how they were, right? If we're going to spend millions of dollars on this, we're going to make sure we get their feedback. The best part about this is the very first pilot, the key leaders and I are all in DC, and they told me before we go in, they said, we just want to prepare you. We didn't want you to know this, but there's competition. They're in the room with us today, and then they've been in another room. They spent yesterday with another group who is competing for this same big, huge global contract. And we didn't want you to know. And I'm like, well, thanks for telling me that now. And they're like, well, the reason is that when people first met you, kid you not, Susanne, they said to us, without you knowing, Holly, we're a little nervous. She seems a little too warm and fuzzy for our culture. And they said, But as we've gotten to know you and we've seen how you do things and we've talked to a lot of your references, we're like, we're willing to put it on the line that we want to just see what happens. And I'm like, warm and fuzzy. I love that. I've been told I'm a velvet hammer. I said, I'll take that. And remember those words, warm and fuzzy. So we go in, okay, we're at dinner with the CEO of the other company that night. And I had no idea I'm sitting next to competition, whatever. They call me the next day. We all fly home and they said, hands down, it was unanimous. They want to move forward. This is what they want. How soon can we meet up again? And da da da. 8 to 10 years later, they surprised me and threw the biggest surprise party for me because they had told me after a couple years, this is the #1 most sought after experience that we've ever done in leadership. It was mostly in the boardroom or in boardrooms around the world. And it was only for the top C-suite. And they said, we have not advertised it. It's all word of mouth. I had these leaders in a boardroom for a day to day and a half. They said, we have a wait list, and now the wait list is almost a year. After I had delivered 75 of these, they threw me a surprise at their headquarters when I was coming in to do something, and it invited all the alumni that had been through it and whoever could fly in. And I'll never forget that. And the big joke was when they were all speaking and we were talking was, what happened to the warm and fuzzy girl? And the reason I'm thinking of this story is because you said suits. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I've walked into many ballrooms being, it's their annual meeting. And I'm like, I remember one with a big time insurance company. And I'm like, I'm standing in there and I'm on stage and I'm like, can we turn up the lights? I never like the lights down. I'm not into that stuff. I like to move around and run around and have mics. I go, first of all suits, ties and suits. I go, are there any women in the room?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the men started laughing. I said, actually, I'd like the women in the room to stand up. And in their top 200 people in the company at this particular this event, there was 4 women in the back at the back table because they're the admin. 2 women stood up in the room. And I'll never forget that. I looked at the room and I said, I love you all and I'm happy to be here, but I'm just going to tell you, I'm not seeing the needle move anywhere in moving women up. And that was actually, I can be very, I laugh at myself. I can be a smart ass, but that's the moment that people start to listen, right? And at that event afterwards, it was all men, except for those few women. And the women, I said, can we all stand up and give those women an applause? Because we're in this room because they did all the work, right?
Oh, nice. The admins in the back.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
had the spotlight. I go, shine it on them, not on me.
Yeah.
And we're in the back afterwards. I'm doing a book signing. And I'll never forget this one man. Men were standing there left and right. I go, do you want me to sign it to you or do you want to give it to your daughter or somebody else? And I had a man who waited and he was in tears. And he said, can I talk to you in private? Will you sign it? And I talked to you. And he goes, I go, yes. Is everything, yes. And he just said, I just want you to know, Susanne, this was like hilarious. He goes, I don't go to church because I'm angry at God, because I lost my daughter in the last year to suicide. And he said, but today I feel like I just went to church and you never mentioned God's name. And I feel like I'm leaving feeling this like inspiration and I can't explain it, but I just needed to tell you, thank you. And I looked at him and I said, thank you, because I pray every time I walk in to a room, it doesn't matter who I'm going to be with, and just ask the Spirit and the Holy Spirit and all the angels to protect me and carry me. And I said, may somebody's life be impacted. And like, when you asked me, how have you done this? Like, I never was talking about God, but if we're really doing what we've been called to do, people see it. But I don't want to be on those stages anymore. And I don't want to have to deal with motivating leaders to get out of their own way.
Yeah, you've done a lot. You've done a lot of work, and now you can let those that have learned from you carry that torch forward. This is going to be your me time to just see how far you can go in your own interdimensional pursuits. Her website is Holly Dowling, and it's spelled DOWLING.com. You can find her books. You can find out more about her. You can find YouTubes to watch. If you're real lucky, maybe you'll get on a coaching wait list. But she actually just did this because she wanted to share this wonderful message that your spiritual growth never ends. Holly Dowling, thank you.
Thank you, Susanne, for being a life-changing spirit in my life. Thank you.
Visit our website, carefreemedium.com, or find us on social media at Carefree Medium. Thanks for supporting Carefree and Conscious.